easy to deal with the Taliban? Is the, because what the U.S. concern is that the Taliban is not giving guarantees on women's rights and things like that. What is your experience and what is your advice to the U.S.?
Well, look, Fareed, what are the choices? Is there an alternative to Taliban right now? No, there isn't. Is there a chance that if the Taliban are squeezed, if the government is squeezed, there could be a change for the better? No. So the only alternative we have right now is to work with them and incentivize them in what the world wants: inclusive government, human rights, women's rights in particular. That's the only way forward right now. And the flip side is, if they are abandoned or these sanctions stay there and the banking system has no liquidity left because of the sanctions, then the worry is that Afghanistan could go into chaos, humanitarian crisis, chaos. And then from Pakistan's point of view, we face two problems. We already have 3 million Afghan refugees. There were three terrorist groups operating from Afghanistan into Pakistan. Right now with the Taliban government, unfortunately, when the flood of refugees came, we have almost 250,000 Afghans crossing into Pakistan. Now, amongst them, unfortunately, have these terrorists. There's the Pakistani Taliban, which has conducted attacks inside Pakistan. There's the Baloch insurgents who've been conducting attacks, and especially recently. And then there's ISIL. So our best hope is that a stable Afghanistan will ensure stability or peace in Pakistan. But it's not just Pakistan, because if it goes into chaos, then we know why the United States first came to Afghanistan 20 years back. So therefore, it's in everyone's interest that this does not descend into chaos, the situation in Afghanistan.
Would you argue that the United States should recognize the Taliban government?
Well, sooner or later, the Taliban would have to be recognized. Now, the question is, the world wants some guarantees before they recognize the Taliban. So how far is the US going to push the Taliban to actually conform to what they expect them in terms of human rights? Now, this is the question. Will the Taliban go all the way? Are they capable of going all the way, bearing in mind that this is a very strong ideological movement? They represent a culture which is completely alien to the Western societies. So therefore, somewhere there has to be give and take. But not recognizing them and freezing their accounts and their banking system, the only people who are going to suffer is not the Taliban government, because no one can replace them right now. But what will happen is that half the population of Afghanistan, which is about 20 million people, are at a severe risk.
You were a very eloquent critic of U.S. policy in the broader Middle East, of Afghanistan, Pakistan, with regard to the military actions. You would always argue that those actions, the drone attacks and such, fed the forces that produce terrorism. Now, what I'm struck by is you have ISIS or ISIL attacking in Iraq, attacking in Syria, attacking in Pakistan, as you say, in Afghanistan. The U.S. is out. What is fueling the terrorism we're still seeing in the broader Middle East? Is it all Sunni versus Shia? Is it what are the roots of this terrorism now?
Well, the U.S. war on terror actually bred terrorists. I can tell you from the Pakistan's example, because Pakistan, by joining the US, we had 80,000 people dying in this joining the US war on terror. And we saw the war, as it went along, it produced more terrorists. And I'm convinced it's exactly the same what happened in Afghanistan. Because these night raids in Afghanistan, the drone attacks, really the United States must review this policy. We watched what happened here. They were telling people in the US that the drones were very accurate and the people, they actually got the terrorists. Bombs exploding in villages. You know, how would they only get the terrorist? So there was a lot of collateral damage, and I'm afraid people in the US did not really, the public didn't know the amount of collateral damage. We bore the brunt because what happened was we were considered collaborators of the US. So all the revenge attacks were against the Pakistani soldiers, against the people of Pakistan. There were suicide attacks all going all over the country. We lost 80,000 people.
But the US has withdrawn and the terror continues.
Much less. Fareed, you can't compare now. I mean, during the height of this war on terror, Islamabad was a fortress. I mean, you had suicide attacks going everywhere. So compared to what used to happen now, you know, terrorism is almost insignificant now.
When we come back, I will ask Imran Khan why, as Prime Minister of one of the largest Muslim nations in the world, he does not believe.
वेलकम बैक जी। इस वक्त आपने सुनी प्राइम मिनिस्टर इमरान खान की गुफ्तगू, जो कि CNN को वो इंटरव्यू दे रहे थे। हम दोबारा अपने मेहमानों की तरफ चलते हैं। डिस्कशन जहाँ से हमने डिसकंटिन्यू की थी वहीं से उसको दोबारा से जोड़ते हैं, और बात हो रही थी अदम एतमाद के हवाले से कि मुमकिन सेटअप क्या बन सकता है। जो बद एतमादी इस वक्त अपोजिशन की जमातों के अंदर है वो कितनी बड़ी रुकावट हायल कर सकती है इस मकसद में कामयाबी के लिए। और आज मौलाना फजल रहमान साहब जो PDM के सरबराह हैं, उनके होम ग्राउंड में